Most men lose the woman they love long before she actually leaves. Not because she found someone better. Not because she stopped feeling something. But because he slowly stopped being the man she was attracted to in the first place. He became reactive instead of grounded. Available instead of valuable. Attached instead of centered. And the shift was subtle. No dramatic fight. No clear warning. Just a quiet decline in respect, and then desire. Let me tell you something most men will never admit. A woman does not stay because you love her harder. She stays because she feels your strength. In this video, I'm not going to teach you how to manipulate emotions or play psychological games. I'm going to show you something far more powerful. How to become the kind of man she chooses, even when she is free to leave. This is Stoic love. And it changes everything. Welcome to the channel, Stoic Love Wisdom. This is where lessons about love will help you better understand this complex emotion. In today's video, we will learn together about 7 strategies to attract her and make her willingly stay. These are things that can change the way you perceive love in life. Be prepared because the secrets and insights you are about to discover may make you look back at yourself and the relationships around you. Before starting, find a quiet space, put on your headphones and relax. Let your mind completely immerse in these shares and enjoy every wonderful moment. Are you ready to discover new things about love? Let's start this journey with us right now. Strategy #1. Build your value before you build the relationship. Let me tell you something most men learn too late. When a man has no direction, he makes a woman his direction. And when a woman becomes your mission, your world quietly begins to shrink. I've seen it. I've lived it. There was a time in my life when I thought love meant intensity. Texting all day. Rearranging my schedule. Dropping priorities. Being available at every emotional tremor. I believed that devotion was attractive. It wasn't. What I learned, the hard way, is something the Stoics understood long before modern dating advice ever existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private reflections, later known as meditations, that a man must focus on what is within his control, his thoughts, his actions, his character. Not outcomes. Not other people's choices. That principle applies brutally well to love. You cannot control whether she stays. You can only control whether you are worth staying for. And those are not the same thing. A woman is not your purpose, she is a companion to it. Here is the truth most men avoid. If you make her the center of your world, she will eventually feel the weight of that responsibility, and she will resent it. Women are drawn to men who are moving somewhere. Not wandering. Not orbiting them. Moving. Purpose is magnetic because it signals strength, independence, and internal stability. When a man wakes up with a mission, building his business, mastering his craft, improving his body, sharpening his mind, he radiates something subtle but undeniable. He does not need her to complete him. And paradoxically, that is what makes her want to be there. The Stoic frame, love without attachment to outcome. Stoicism is often misunderstood as emotional coldness. It is not. It is emotional discipline. Epictetus taught that suffering begins when we attach ourselves to what we cannot control. In relationships, what can you control? Your growth. Your integrity. Your discipline. Your emotional reactions. Your standards. What can you not control? Her feelings. Her mood swings. Her loyalty. Her decision to stay. If your happiness depends on the second list, you are unstable. But if your identity is anchored in the first list, you become immovable. And women feel that stability. Attraction grows in the shadow of strength. There is something profoundly attractive about a man who is busy building his life. Not busy avoiding her. Not busy playing games. Busy becoming better. When you prioritize your fitness, your work, your finances, your brotherhood, your inner discipline, you communicate something powerful without saying a word. I have a life that exists whether you are in it or not. That sentence alone separates boys from men. A woman does not want to be your oxygen. She wants to be your addition. If she senses that losing her would collapse you, she feels pressure. If she senses that losing her would hurt you but not destroy you, she feels respect. Respect sustains attraction far longer than neediness ever will. The quiet confidence of a man on a path. When your focus is self-mastery, your behavior changes naturally. You don't overtext. You don't panic when she replies late. You don't chase validation. You don't argue to win. Because you are not operating from scarcity. You are operating from abundance, not abundance of women, but abundance of direction. And direction is calm. That calm is intoxicating. Why making her your mission backfires? Let me be brutally honest. When a man has nothing else meaningful going on, he unconsciously seeks emotional stimulation from the relationship. He analyzes her tone. He checks her social media. He measures affection like its currency. That is not love. That is insecurity wearing the mask of devotion. And women can sense it instinctively. When she feels you monitoring her, chasing reassurance, shaping your identity around her reactions, her attraction declines. Not because she is cruel, but because she subconsciously registers instability. Instability kills desire. Build a life she wants to step into. Instead of asking, how do I keep her? Ask yourself, if she walked into my life today, would she see a man in motion, or a man waiting? Are you disciplined? Are you improving physically? Are you financially responsible? Are you emotionally composed? Are you respected by other men? These things matter more than charm. Charm may open the door. Character keeps it open. Detachment creates freedom, and freedom attracts. Here is the Stoic paradox of love. The less you cling, the more she relaxes. The more you relax, the more she leans in. When she sees that your happiness is not hostage to her mood, she feels safe. When she feels safe, she invests. But that safety does not come from reassurance. It comes from observing your stability over time. You cannot fake this. You either have a life worth respecting, or you don't. Final reflection. Build your body. Build your discipline. Build your income. Build your mission. Build your emotional control. Then invite her into that world. If she stays, it is because she chooses to. If she leaves, your path continues. That is Stoic love. You do not beg for priority. You become the man whose presence is a privilege. And when a woman senses that she is walking beside a man who stands firm within himself, she does not stay because you asked. She stays because she wants to. Strategy #2.Master emotional control. Respond, don't react. If there is one skill that separates a boy from a man in love, it is this. Emotional control. Not suppression. Not coldness. Not pretending you don't care. Control. I have seen strong men lose powerful women. Not because they lacked money, looks, or intelligence, but because they lacked mastery over their reactions. And nothing erodes attraction faster than an emotional reaction you cannot contain. The moment that reveals a man. It's never during the good days that your character is tested. It's when she cancels last minute. When she replies slower than usual. When she seems distant. When she says something that touches your ego. In those moments, two men are revealed. The reactive man. The composed man. The reactive man sends long messages. He questions her tone. He defends himself unnecessarily. He tries to fix everything immediately. The composed man pauses. And that pause is power. The Stoic foundation of emotional strength. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Most relationship conflicts don't begin with facts. They begin with interpretation. She replies late. Your mind creates a story. She's losing interest. She's talking to someone else. I'm not enough. None of that is reality. It is imagination fueled by insecurity. Stoicism teaches that between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space lies your freedom. The ability to choose your response instead of being dragged by emotion, that is masculine gravity. Women test emotional stability, consciously or not. Let's be honest about something most men are afraid to admit. Women test emotional strength. Sometimes intentionally. Often unconsciously. They want to know. If life gets difficult. If conflict appears. If emotions rise. Will this man crumble? Or will he remain grounded? A man who reacts impulsively signals unpredictability. A man who stays centered signals safety. Safety creates trust. Trust sustains attraction. Reaction is ego. Response is power. When you react, you are defending your ego. When you respond, you are protecting your standards. There is a difference. Reaction sounds like this. Why didn't you reply? So that's how it is now. I guess I'm not important anymore. Response sounds like this. No problem, talk later. Let me know when you're free. Or sometimes, silence. Silence, when rooted in calm, not resentment, is strength. The reactive man tries to control the situation. The composed man controls himself. And that difference is everything. The masculine edge of calm. There is something deeply attractive about a man who does not get shaken easily. If she raises her voice and you lower yours. If she becomes emotional and you become steady. If she withdraws and you remain secure. You shift the emotional frame. Instead of chasing reassurance, you embody certainty. And certainty is rare. Most men are emotionally volatile. They swing from affection to frustration within hours. They let mood dictate behavior. But when you remain stable, you become the emotional anchor in the relationship. She may not say it. But she feels it. Emotional control is not emotional suppression. Let's clarify something important. Stoic love does not mean you feel nothing. It means you feel deeply, but you are not ruled by it. Epictetus taught that it is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. You are allowed to feel hurt. You are allowed to feel disappointed. You are allowed to feel uncertain. But you process those emotions internally before expressing them. You do not weaponize them. You do not dump them impulsively. You do not let them drive your decisions. That restraint creates mystery. That restraint creates depth. The calm man wins long-term. Short-term, emotional intensity can feel exciting. But long-term attraction depends on stability. If she senses that her mood controls your mood, she unconsciously loses respect. If she senses that your inner state is self-governed, she relaxes. A woman does not want to manage your emotions. She wants to feel safe within them. And safety comes from predictability. Not predictability in routine, but predictability in composure. Practical discipline, the 3-second rule. Here's a simple practice I learned through experience. Before replying to anything emotionally charged, pause for 3 seconds. Breathe. Ask yourself. Am I responding from ego or from strength? If it's ego, wait longer. Most arguments die in the space of patience. Most breakups escalate because someone refused to slow down. The power of being unshakable. When you master emotional control, you don't beg during distance. You don't explode during conflict. You don't over-celebrate small validation. You don't spiral from small uncertainties. You become grounded. Grounded men are rare. And rarity increases value. Final reflection. Emotional discipline is not about winning arguments. It's about winning yourself. When you can sit in discomfort without reacting. When you can feel jealousy without accusing. When you can sense tension without escalating. You become formidable. And a woman who stands beside a man who governs himself feels something powerful. Security. Not the security of control, but the security of stability. And when she feels safe inside your emotional world, she doesn't stay because you demanded reassurance. She stays because your calm becomes her refuge. That is Stoic love. And that is strength. Love is not only about happy moments, but also about challenges that help us realize our inner strength. It is through difficulties that we learn patience, tolerance, and how to love without losing ourselves. This is also the reason why I share stories here, so that you can find calmness and wisdom in your journey of love. If you feel these words touch you, please take a second to click like to spread this message. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click subscribe with the notification bell, to always be the first to receive new shares. Don't forget to leave a comment below, share your feelings or a lesson you learned after listening to this story. Each line you share is a way for us to connect and accompany each other. Now, get ready, because the next part will bring you even deeper insights. Strategy #3. Never make her the center of your world. There is a silent mistake many men make when they fall in love. They shrink their world. Their hobbies disappear. Their ambition softens. Their schedule bends. Their friends see them less. And slowly, without realizing it, they begin orbiting her. At first, it feels romantic. In reality, it is the beginning of imbalance. I have been that man. I thought devotion meant availability. I believed that if I showed her she was my priority above all else, she would feel secure and stay. But what I learned, through loss, not theory, is this. When a woman becomes the center of your world, you stop being the center of yourself. And that shift changes everything. The Stoic principle of inner sovereignty. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about self-governance, the idea that a man must rule his own mind before he attempts to engage with the world. When you place someone else at the emotional center of your life, you give them unspoken authority over your state. Her mood becomes your mood. Her attention becomes your validation. Her distance becomes your anxiety. That is not love. That is dependency disguised as intensity. Stoicism teaches sovereignty, inner independence. You can care deeply without surrendering your core. And that distinction is the foundation of lasting attraction. A woman wants to join a life, not replace it. Here is a truth many men resist. A woman does not want to be your entire world. She wants to be part of a world that already has structure. If you abandon your mission for her, she may initially feel special. But over time, she will sense something unsettling. You have no gravity outside of her. And attraction requires gravity. A man with purpose, routines, passions, and boundaries carries weight. His time is valuable because it is invested elsewhere. His presence feels chosen, not default. When you drop everything for her, you unconsciously communicate. My life revolves around you. That sounds romantic in movies. In real life, it creates pressure. Scarcity creates appreciation. There is a psychological truth here. What is constantly available loses perceived value. When you are always there, immediately replying, always free, always adjusting, you remove tension from the dynamic. And tension, in healthy doses, fuels attraction. I am not speaking about manipulation. I am speaking about balance. If she knows that your time is divided between ambition, discipline, friendships, fitness, solitude, then your time with her feels intentional. Intentional time is powerful. Desperate availability is not. The calm power of a full life. Seneca wrote about the importance of living deliberately, of guarding one's time because it is the only true possession we have. When you live this way, something subtle shifts in your relationships. You no longer seek her attention to fill emptiness. You invite her into a life that already feels complete. That changes your energy. You don't panic when plans shift. You don't chase when she withdraws slightly. You don't measure affection obsessively. Because your emotional survival does not depend on constant validation. That independence is magnetic. Emotional center versus emotional anchor. There is a difference between making her your emotional center and allowing her to be part of your emotional life. If she is your center, you collapse when she pulls away. If she is part of your life, you feel disappointment, but you remain grounded. Grounded men are rare. And rarity increases value. A woman may not consciously analyze this, but she will feel it. When she senses that you are stable with or without constant reassurance, she relaxes. When she senses that her distance destabilizes you, she unconsciously loses respect. Respect sustains desire. Dependency erodes it. The danger of emotional overinvestment. Overinvestment happens quietly. You begin rearranging priorities. You start checking your phone more often. You think about her constantly. You neglect personal growth. Your identity narrows. The problem is not loving deeply. The problem is loving without maintaining self-structure. When your identity becomes her boyfriend, instead of a man on a mission who also loves deeply, you reduce yourself. And women are drawn to expansion, not reduction. The Stoic detachment that attracts. Epictetus taught that we must hold external things lightly, not because they lack value, but because clinging to them creates suffering. Love her fully. But hold her lightly. That means you appreciate her presence. But you do not fear her absence. You invest in the relationship. But you continue investing in yourself. You give affection. But you maintain standards. Detachment is not indifference. It is strength without desperation. Build a world bigger than the relationship. Ask yourself honestly. If she disappeared tomorrow, would you still have momentum? Would you still wake up with goals? Would your routines remain intact? Would your identity stand firm? If the answer is no, then the relationship has consumed too much of your structure. A strong relationship is two complete individuals walking side by side. Not one complete person and one orbiting satellite. The silent shift that changes everything. When you stop centering her and start centering your mission. You text with intention, not anxiety. You plan dates confidently, not desperately. You walk away from disrespect calmly. You enjoy her presence without fearing its loss. That shift is subtle. But she feels it. And when she feels that she is with a man whose life is expanding, not shrinking, because of her presence, she invests more deeply. Because now she is not carrying your world. She is walking beside it. Final reflection. Never reduce your life for love. Expand it. Let her step into something strong. Let her see discipline. Let her see ambition. Let her see friendships. Let her see a man who values his time and guards his peace. When your world is full, your love becomes a gift, not a request. And a woman stays longer in a world that has gravity than in one that depends on her to exist. That is Stoic love. You do not revolve. You remain centered, within yourself. Strategy #4. Maintain mystery, reveal yourself in layers. There is a mistake many men make when they feel connection. They reveal everything. Their past. Their fears. Their plans. Their trauma. Their daily routine. All within the first few weeks. They believe transparency equals intimacy. But here is the truth I learned through experience. Attraction fades when there is nothing left to discover. Mystery is not manipulation. It is pacing. And pacing is power. The illusion of instant intimacy. When a man meets a woman he feels deeply about, he often mistakes emotional intensity for depth. He wants to fast-forward closeness. He shares everything. He over-explains. He sends long messages late at night. He opens every internal door at once. It feels honest. But it removes intrigue. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations that a man should be like a promontory against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm. There is something deeply attractive about a man who stands firm in himself, not fully exposed, not easily read. Depth is not loud. It is quiet. Mystery is emotional self-containment. Mystery does not mean being secretive. It means you are not compelled to explain yourself constantly. You don't rush to justify your decisions. You don't overshare your vulnerabilities prematurely. You don't narrate your entire life story to gain sympathy. You reveal yourself in layers, over time, as trust develops. This creates anticipation. And anticipation sustains attraction. When everything is immediately accessible, desire has no space to breathe. The psychology of curiosity. Human nature craves what it cannot fully grasp. If she feels she understands you completely within weeks, her curiosity declines. But if she senses depth she hasn't fully uncovered, strength she hasn't fully measured, she leans in. This is not about playing games. It is about self-possession. A self-possessed man does not rush to be known. He allows himself to be discovered. Emotional overexposure weakens perceived strength. Let me be clear. Vulnerability is powerful, when it is grounded. But uncontrolled vulnerability feels unstable. Seneca spoke about measured expression. The idea that wisdom includes knowing when and how much to reveal. If you expose your deepest insecurities too quickly, you unconsciously shift the emotional frame. Instead of being the stable presence, you become the one seeking reassurance. And reassurance seeking kills polarity. Mystery preserves polarity. It maintains the subtle tension between strength and softness. Silence is not emptiness. One of the most powerful tools a man can cultivate is comfortable silence. Not awkward silence. Not withdrawn silence. Calm silence. You don't fill every gap with words. You don't explain every thought. You don't defend every misunderstanding. There is strength in restraint. Epictetus taught that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should listen more than we speak. When you listen deeply instead of dominating conversation, you create emotional space. And in that space, she begins to project depth onto you. Projection builds intrigue. Social media has destroyed mystery. In the modern world, men reveal too much too easily. Every thought posted. Every emotion broadcast. Every insecurity hinted at publicly. Mystery requires discipline. You do not need to showcase your entire lifestyle to validate your worth. You move quietly. You build quietly. You love quietly. And what is quiet becomes intriguing. Reveal, don't perform. There is a difference between revealing yourself and performing vulnerability. Performance seeks validation. Revelation invites connection. When you share something personal, it should come from strength, not from fear of losing her. You do not say, "I'm scared you'll leave." You say, calmly, "I value stability and respect in relationships." One seeks reassurance. The other sets tone. Tone shapes attraction. The art of layered depth. Think of yourself as a book that cannot be read in one sitting. The first chapter shows composure. The second reveals ambition. The third shows emotional intelligence. The fourth unveils selective vulnerability. But you never hand her the entire manuscript at once. Because discovery is part of desire. When she continues discovering new layers of you months later, attraction sustains itself. But when everything is exposed immediately, familiarity replaces fascination. Calm confidence creates intrigue. A mysterious man is not mysterious because he hides. He is mysterious because he is complete within himself. He does not overshare to bond. He does not exaggerate to impress. He does not confess excessively to accelerate closeness. He allows connection to develop at a natural rhythm. That rhythm feels secure. And security, paradoxically, allows mystery to exist safely. Final reflection. Do not rush intimacy. Let her earn deeper layers. Let time reveal you gradually. Let your actions speak louder than your confessions. Speak with intention. Share with strength. Remain composed. When a woman senses that there is more to you than what is immediately visible, more depth, more discipline, more inner world, she stays curious. And curiosity keeps her leaning in. That is Stoic love. Not cold. Not distant. But grounded enough to unfold slowly. And what unfolds slowly lasts. Strategy #5.lead. Don't constantly seek permission. There is a quiet shift that happens in relationships. At first, you are decisive. You choose the place. You set the time. You move with clarity. But as emotions deepen, many men begin to soften their edge. They ask excessively. They hesitate unnecessarily. They defer constantly. Not out of respect. Out of fear. Fear of displeasing her. Fear of making the wrong move. Fear of losing approval. And slowly, leadership dissolves. Let me tell you something from experience. A woman may say she wants equality in decision-making, and she should be respected, but she is deeply attracted to a man who can lead calmly. Leadership is not dominance. It is direction. The Stoic nature of leadership. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire not by shouting, but by self-command. In Meditations, he constantly reminded himself that true power begins with ruling one's own impulses. Leadership in love is the same. If you cannot govern yourself, you cannot guide a relationship. When you hesitate constantly or outsource every decision to her, you signal uncertainty. Uncertainty erodes attraction. The difference between control and direction. Control says, "We're doing this because I said so." Direction says, "I've made a plan. Join me." One is rigid. The other is grounded. Leadership is not about suppressing her voice. It is about offering clarity so she doesn't have to carry the structure alone. When a man constantly asks, "What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Whatever you prefer," he slowly transfers responsibility. And responsibility creates mental load. Women already carry enough of that in life. When you step into calm decisiveness, you remove friction. That feels secure. Decisiveness signals strength. Seneca wrote that hesitation is often the result of fearing outcomes. When you are overly cautious in leading, it is usually because you fear disapproval. But strength is not the absence of mistakes. Strength is the willingness to act without paralysis. If you choose the restaurant and it's average, she will not lose attraction. If you choose nothing and hesitate endlessly, she will. Because hesitation communicates insecurity. And insecurity weakens polarity. Leadership in small moments. Leadership does not mean grand gestures. It appears in small details. You suggest the day for the date. You choose the time confidently. You decide when to leave the party. You express your opinion clearly. You don't constantly check if every move is approved. You move. And if she disagrees, you adjust calmly, not defensively. That balance creates respect. Emotional leadership is even more important. Here is where most men fail. Physical planning is easy. Emotional leadership is harder. When conflict arises, do you escalate, or steady the tone? When tension builds, do you withdraw, or address it calmly? Epictetus taught that we must not be ruled by external events. In a relationship, emotional storms are inevitable. The man who remains centered becomes the anchor. If she becomes emotional and you become reactive, the structure collapses. If she becomes emotional and you become grounded, stability emerges. That stability builds trust. Leadership requires boundaries. You cannot lead without standards. If she disrespects you and you laugh it off to avoid conflict, you are not leading. You are avoiding. Calmly stating, "I don't tolerate that," is leadership. Explaining your expectations without aggression is leadership. Walking away from repeated disrespect is leadership. Without boundaries, decisiveness becomes empty. With boundaries, decisiveness becomes attractive. The energy of a man who knows his path. When you are clear about your values, decisions become easier. You know what kind of relationship you want. You know what behavior aligns with your standards. You know what direction your life is heading. So when you invite her into your world, you do so with structure. Structure feels safe. And safety deepens connection. A woman does not want to feel like she is steering a drifting ship. She wants to feel like she is beside a captain who knows where he is going, even if the ocean is unpredictable. Leadership is calm, not loud. Many men confuse dominance with leadership. Raising your voice is not strength. Controlling her choices is not strength. True leadership is quiet. It is. "I've thought about this. This is what I suggest. We'll handle it." No drama. No ego. Just clarity. And clarity is rare. When you stop seeking constant approval. The most attractive shift happens when you no longer require her validation for every decision. You respect her input. But you do not depend on it. That independence changes your energy. You walk taller. You speak slower. You decide faster. And she feels it. Not because you demanded control. But because you carried direction. Final reflection. Lead your life first. Then lead the relationship. Not through force. Not through ego. But through grounded certainty. Be decisive. Be structured. Be calm under tension. When a woman senses that you can navigate uncertainty without collapsing into doubt, she relaxes. And when she relaxes, she leans in. That is Stoic love. Leadership without dominance. Strength without noise. Direction without fear. And a woman will stay longer beside a man who moves forward, than beside one who constantly asks which way to go. At this point, you may have seen yourself in the stories above, sometimes weak, sometimes strong, and sometimes not knowing what to do in love. But it is those moments that make us real and worthy of respect. If you feel the same, please click like to let me know you are here, accompanying me. And if you haven't clicked subscribe yet, don't hesitate, because every day I will share more stories and new lessons, to help you have a calmer view of love. Now, let's move on to the final part, where we will touch on deeper things. Strategy #6. Never stop upgrading yourself. Let me speak to you plainly. Attraction does not die in a moment. It fades in stagnation. I have seen men who were once magnetic become invisible, not because they aged, not because they lacked love, but because they stopped growing. They became comfortable. And comfort, when left unchecked, turns into decline. If you want a woman to stay willingly, you must remain a man in motion. Not restless. Not unstable. But progressing. Growth is the foundation of masculine energy. There is something deeply attractive about a man who is evolving. Not bragging. Not performing. Evolving. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself in Meditations that life is short and the only true task is self-improvement, in character, discipline, and contribution. That mindset is powerful in relationships. When a woman senses that you are physically stronger this year than last year, mentally sharper than before, financially more stable, emotionally more grounded, she feels she is walking beside a man ascending. And people are drawn to ascension. The danger of plateau. The beginning of a relationship is often electric. You dress better. You train harder. You speak with intention. You manage your time wisely. But once comfort sets in, many men relax their edge. Gym sessions decline. Ambition softens. Discipline weakens. They assume the bond is secure. But attraction is not a contract. It is a living dynamic. And stagnation suffocates it. Self-improvement is not about impressing her. Here is where many men misunderstand growth. You do not improve for her approval. You improve because stagnation weakens you. Seneca wrote that a man should measure his progress not by comparison with others, but by comparison with his former self. Ask yourself. Are you stronger than last year? Are you wiser? Are you more disciplined? Are you more financially responsible? If the answer is no, then attraction is not the only thing at risk, your self-respect is. And self-respect is the foundation of presence. Physical strength signals vitality. Let's speak practically. Your body matters. Not because you need to look like a model, but because physical discipline reflects internal discipline. When you train consistently, you communicate. I am capable of discomfort. I value structure. I respect my health. That energy translates into relationships. A man who cannot govern his body often struggles to govern his impulses. And impulsive men are unstable partners. Physical growth builds silent confidence. Silent confidence builds attraction. Financial and intellectual growth builds stability. A relationship cannot thrive on emotion alone. Stability matters. Ambition matters. Competence matters. Epictetus emphasized mastery over what is within our control, our effort, our focus, our learning. When you pursue mastery in your craft, when you sharpen your skills, when you increase your value in the world, you elevate the relationship indirectly. She does not want to feel like she is dating a man who peaked when she met him. She wants to feel like she is witnessing your rise. Growth creates healthy tension. When you are improving consistently, something subtle happens. She feels inspired, and slightly challenged. Not threatened. Challenged. Your momentum encourages her growth too. A stagnant man creates complacency. A growing man creates movement. Movement keeps energy alive. Complacency breeds disrespect. This is difficult but necessary to understand. If you become predictable in the wrong way, lazy, unmotivated, emotionally reactive, respect declines. And once respect declines, attraction follows. You may still have history. You may still have affection. But desire weakens without admiration. Growth sustains admiration. Upgrade quietly. Here is the Stoic way. You do not announce every improvement. You do not seek applause for discipline. You train in silence. You study in silence. You build in silence. And over time, the results speak. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while writing private reminders to himself about humility and self-control. True growth is internal before it becomes visible. And when it becomes visible, it feels natural, not performative. The relationship should be a catalyst, not a cage. If being in love makes you softer in discipline, something is wrong. Love should amplify your strength. It should not replace your mission. When you continue upgrading yourself, you create an environment where she feels secure. Because she knows she is with a man who refuses to decline. And decline is what most people fear in long-term commitment. Final reflection. Never stop becoming. Train your body. Refine your mind. Increase your competence. Strengthen your character. Not to compete. Not to impress. But to remain alive. A woman stays willingly beside a man who is expanding. Because expansion feels like the future. And everyone wants to walk toward the future, not backward into stagnation. That is Stoic love. Relentless self-mastery. Quiet evolution. A man who is never finished, and never falling behind. Strategy number 7. Be willing to walk away if respect is lost. This is the hardest lesson. And the most powerful. You can build value. You can master your emotions. You can maintain mystery. You can lead. You can evolve relentlessly. But if you are not willing to walk away when respect disappears, none of it matters. Because attraction without respect cannot survive. And love without respect becomes slow humiliation. I learned this the painful way. The moment you tolerate disrespect. Disrespect rarely arrives as a dramatic explosion. It begins subtly. A dismissive tone. A joke at your expense in public. Repeated boundary crossing. Emotional manipulation. Withdrawal used as control. At first, you rationalize it. She's just stressed. She didn't mean it. I'm overthinking. And sometimes, that is true. But when patterns repeat and you stay silent to avoid losing her, something inside you erodes. Not the relationship. You. And once self-respect cracks, your presence weakens. Stoicism and the power of inner standards. Epictetus taught that no one can harm your character without your permission. That is profound in relationships. If someone disrespects you once, that is their action. If they do it repeatedly and you remain, that becomes your decision. Stoicism is not passive tolerance. It is active self-governance. You cannot control her behavior. But you control what you accept. And what you accept defines your value. Why fear of loss destroys attraction? Let me speak plainly. If she senses you will stay no matter how she behaves, she unconsciously loses respect. Not because she wants to, but because humans test boundaries. And boundaries that never hold are not real. Seneca wrote that a man should not cling to what degrades him out of fear of loneliness. Fear-driven attachment is visible. You speak softer. You tolerate more. You negotiate your standards. You think you are preserving love. But you are sacrificing dignity. And dignity is the root of attraction. Walking away is not emotional reactivity. Let's be clear. Walking away does not mean storming out in anger. It does not mean threatening breakup during every conflict. It means calmly recognizing when patterns violate your standards, and acting accordingly. You communicate clearly. I don't accept this. If it continues, you leave. No drama. No revenge. No long emotional speeches. Just action. That calm departure is powerful. The energy of a man who can lose. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire yet constantly reminded himself that everything external, including relationships, is temporary. This mindset creates freedom. When you understand that you can survive loss, you stop behaving from desperation. And desperation is the quickest way to lose respect. A man who can lose without collapsing becomes emotionally dangerous, in the most attractive way. Because he is not controlled by fear. Respect first, love second. Many men prioritize love over respect. They think emotional closeness compensates for subtle humiliation. It does not. Respect creates safety. Love deepens within that safety. If respect disappears, love becomes unstable. Arguments intensify. Distance increases. Attraction fades. Because respect is the foundation. Self-respect is felt before it is seen. When you carry yourself with quiet certainty, something shifts. You do not over-explain your standards. You do not beg to be treated properly. You do not tolerate repeated boundary violations. You move with internal authority. And that authority is magnetic. Even if she challenges you initially, she will feel the weight of your boundaries. And most women rise to meet a man who respects himself. The paradox of detachment. Here is the paradox. When you are willing to walk away, you are less likely to need to. Because your energy changes. You stop clinging. You stop negotiating your identity. You stop chasing validation. You show up strong, calm, self-contained. And strength invites respect. But if the moment ever comes when respect truly collapses, you leave with composure. Not because you don't care, but because you care about yourself. The final test of Stoic love. Stoic love is not about coldness. It is about alignment. You love fully. You invest deeply. You commit sincerely. But you never abandon your standards to avoid loss. Because if keeping her requires losing yourself, you have already lost. Final reflection. Build value. Master emotion. Maintain mystery. Lead with clarity. Evolve relentlessly. And above all, be willing to walk away from disrespect. Not with anger. With calm certainty. A woman stays willingly beside a man who stands firm within himself. Not because he traps her. Not because he begs. But because she feels the gravity of his self-respect. And gravity cannot be faked. That is Stoic love. Strength without cruelty. Attachment without desperation. Love without self-abandonment. And when a woman knows that you choose her, but do not need her to survive, she stays. Because she wants to. Conclusion. If there is one truth I have learned through experience, it is this. You do not keep a woman by holding tighter. You keep her by standing stronger. These 7 strategies are not tricks. They are transformations. You build your value before asking for loyalty. You master your emotions before asking for understanding. You center your life on purpose, not on her approval. You reveal yourself in layers, not in desperation. You lead with calm direction, not insecurity. You evolve continuously, refusing stagnation. And above all, you protect your self-respect, even if it costs you comfort. This is Stoic love. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that the strength of a man lies not in controlling others, but in mastering his own mind. That principle changes everything in relationships. When you no longer act from fear of loss. When you no longer chase reassurance. When your happiness is rooted in discipline, purpose, and inner sovereignty. Your presence becomes different. Calmer. Heavier. More grounded. And women feel that. A woman does not stay because you convinced her. She stays because your life has gravity. She feels safe in your composure. Inspired by your growth. Drawn to your restraint. Secure in your boundaries. And if she ever chooses to leave, you remain intact. Because Stoic love is not about possession. It is about strength. You do not beg for devotion. You become the kind of man whose presence is a privilege. And when a woman walks beside that kind of man, she stays, not by force, but by choice. Thank you for watching the whole video. I hope that today's sharing about love will bring you new perspectives and help you gain valuable lessons. If you find the video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share it with your loved ones. I am very grateful for your companionship, and hope that each video will help you get closer to a happy and lasting love. See you in the next videos. Wish you a wonderful and inspired day.